Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we plunge into the most fascinating and, yeah, often surprising corners of how things work, from culture, technology to, well, today, the very soul of a video game.
That's right.
And today, we're kicking things off with a question that might just ignite a full-blown debate wherever you're listening.
Okay.
What if a game's original unpatched version, like straight out of the box, day one, is considered by some of its most passionate fans to be fundamentally superior to its later, updated, and even its remastered editions? And we're not just talking about, a simple graphical facelift here. This is about the very essence of the gameplay, the core experience that made it special in the first place.
It's a truly compelling starting point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it forces us to confront our assumptions about what improvement really means in game development.
Exactly.
When we talk about a game's evolution, we usually think of it as like a linear path, right?
Yeah.
Toward polish, refinement, added content.
Sure. Yeah. More is better.
But as we'll see today, that's not always the case.
Yeah.
Sometimes that earliest iteration holds a kind of raw, unadulterated magic that later versions maybe inadvertently dilute, even with the best intentions.
And that's exactly why today we're diving headfirst into the explosive world of Burnout Paradise.
Yes. A classic.
This isn't just any racing game. It was a title that back in 2008 absolutely tore up the rulebook. I mean, completely. And in doing so, created a truly unique legacy and, as we'll uncover, a surprising amount of controversy, even now, a decade and a half later. So our mission for this deep dive is basically to unpack the entire evolution of Burnout Paradise. We're going to explore its really revolutionary open-world concept for the time.
Definitely.
Dissect the core mechanics that defined its Burnout Fast identity, that feeling.
That specific feeling, yeah.
And maybe most importantly, navigate this fierce debate among players about whether the game truly improved or, astonishingly, downgraded over time. Especially when you compare that initial 1.0 release to the shiny new remastered version.
Right. And to do that, we've pulled together a pretty rich stack of sources. We'll be drawing insights directly from developer interviews, which are always fascinating.
Yeah.
Comprehensive game wikis that meticulously document every single change, every patch. The real deep nerd stuff.
Love those wikis.
Absolutely. Vibrant community discussions on forums like Reddit and Co-Optimus, where these debates really live.
Yeah.
And a range of critical analyses from various gaming publications over the years.
So a good mix.
Yeah, it's all about getting to the heart of what made Burnout Paradise tick and maybe where it potentially stumbled. From multiple viewpoints and perspectives, we want to understand not just what happened, but, why it mattered so much to the players.
So get ready. Buckle up, maybe. Because what you think you know about Burnout Paradise might just be dramatically reevaluated by the end of this deep dive. There's a fascinating tension here, isn't there, between a developer's bold vision and the ultimate player experience. And we're going to explore every twist, turn, and inevitable crash along the way. All right, let's kick things off with the genesis of all this chaos. Burnout Paradise's radical vision. This game didn't just tweak the existing Burnout formula, it basically reinvented it from the ground up, starting with a massive, bold move for the series that had fans either cheering or, frankly, scratching their heads. Okay, let's unpack this monumental shift first. Criterion Games made an incredibly bold pivot for Burnout Paradise. For anyone familiar with the series back then, you'll know previous Burnout titles were all about focused, linear track racing.
Right, those intense, specific courses.
Yeah, exactly. Think specific courses designed for just pure high-speed competition. But Paradise was the first game in the entire series to embrace a fully open-world environment, this sprawling place called Paradise City. And, to put it mildly, this decision proved to be incredibly divisive right from day one. You can just imagine the outcry from some longtime fans who cherished that proven, ribbon track formula.
Oh, absolutely. They were worried, weren't they?
Yeah.
And maybe rightfully so. How would their beloved high-octane, crash-filled races translate to an expansive, unstructured environment? It was a huge question mark.
Huge.
What's truly fascinating here, though, is the sheer conviction behind that move, especially from the creative director, Alex Ward.
Right.
He wasn't just making a casual design tweak. He envisioned a complete reinvention of the Burnout series. He was pushing far beyond anything they had done before.
Yeah.
Ward articulated this clear desire to move past traditional tracks, explicitly prioritizing discovery and exploration as the core of the new experience. He saw the open world not just as a setting for races, but as a kind of social platform.
Interesting. A social platform.
Yeah, aiming to influence the broader landscape of open-world gaming itself. not just racing. He wanted players to connect, explore, and basically create their own chaos together within this dynamic space.
So it wasn't just a change in genre, it was like a statement of intent, pushing boundaries, reshaping expectations for racing games.
Totally. It was ambitious, really ambitious.
But that kind of radical vision, it rarely comes without a fight, does it? Especially when you're talking about a well-established franchise and a major publisher like EA. It sounds like Ward faced some serious headwinds.
Oh, absolutely. The sources indicate significant internal resistance from Electronic Arts, the publisher.
Okay.
At the time, you see, EA considered the Burnout series, well, less lucrative than their other big racing franchise, Need for Speed.
Ah, the golden child.
Pretty much. So they were naturally skeptical of this whole open world concept for Burnout, which was still relatively new for racing games in general back in '08. This wasn't just a creative choice for Criterion. It was a high-stakes gamble. Ward and his team were putting a lot on the line to prove that this radical departure was not only creatively sound, but also commercially viable.
Wow.
There was this real tension, between the creative ambition of Criterion and the corporate bottom line of EA. It must have been a truly nerve-wracking time for the studio.
I bet. And what a payoff it turned out to be, right? Despite all those doubts, the internal pressures, Burnout Paradise absolutely smashed expectations.
It really did.
It sold over 1 million copies within its first 3 months alone, which, really demonstrated the commercial viability of Ward's daring vision.
Proved him right, basically.
Totally. But its impact stretched far beyond just sales figures. It went on to significantly influence future racing game developers in their own approaches to open-world design. It proved you could successfully marry high-octane racing with a sandbox environment.
Yeah, it effectively proved the skeptics wrong and carved out a new path for the genre. It legitimized that approach.
So this really raises an important question then, doesn't it? How did this controversial shift from that proven ribbon track formula, where every turn, every jump was meticulously placed, to a sprawling open world actually change the fundamental Burnout experience?
What was truly gained, maybe, in terms of freedom and discovery.
Right. And perhaps what was inherently lost in that transformation for the players who loved the precision, the intensity of the earlier game.
It's a core tension, yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll keep exploring that today because it really set the stage for so much of the debate that followed.
That's a great lead-in, because to truly understand what might have been gained or lost in that open-world transformation, we need to talk about what Burnout Fast truly means, at its core.
Yeah, the feeling.
Burnout Paradise was absolutely defined by its radically unrestrained driving mechanics, pushing the boundaries of speed and aggressive play in a way few other games dared, even back then.
And a key aspect of this is how the game just flips traditional racing conventions completely on their head.
How so?
Well, in most racing games, a crash it's a failure, right?
Yeah.
You're penalized, you lose time, you might even have to restart. It's frustrating.
Definitely.
But Burnout Paradise performed what the sources call anarchic celebrations of crashes. Catastrophic collisions weren't just a consequence. They were a core, enjoyable spectacle.
Right, like a reward, almost.
Kind of. They were cinematic, often in slow motion, showcasing incredible deformation and debris. It wasn't about avoiding crashes, it was about mastering them, or at least just reveling in the chaos.
It's like an art form of destruction.
Pretty much, yeah. Designed to be both visually stunning and, well, emotionally exhilarating.
And this is where the brilliant takedown mechanic comes in, which is just pure genius in terms of keeping that adrenaline rush going.
Oh yeah, the takedowns. Essential.
Colliding with another player at an awkward angle wasn't just a mutual crash, was it? If you executed a successful takedown, meaning your opponent wrecked and you didn't, it would save your car.
Keep you going.
Put you right back on track, and in that split second, you'd experience this palpable moment of euphoria. Like, you transitioned from immediate danger to definitive success.
Exactly. Imagine perfectly timing that shunt, seeing your rival spiral into a wall, and then instantly being back in the race, maybe even getting boost back.
Yeah. It was precisely designed to keep that blistering pace going without any annoying downtime. It constantly rewarded aggression.
And the boost system in Burnout Paradise wasn't just, an acceleration button either. It was intricately woven into the game's core loop.
How did that work again?
Well, it was designed to intensify the game's most intense moments by making you feel truly unstoppable when you used it. It created what sources describe as this delicious feedback loop.
Okay.
Going fast, performing stunts like jumps and drifts, and especially crashing other cars doing the burnout stuff.
All generated boost.
This boost, in turn, allowed you to do those very things more effectively, faster, and with more impact. So it meant constant aggression, constant speed. A relentless pursuit of destruction was actually the best way to play.
So it explicitly rewarded the exact behaviors that made the game so exciting, a self-sustaining cycle of high-octane action.
Precisely. Very clever design.
And the crashes themselves were just a sight to behold, weren't they? Thanks to Criterion's sophisticated dynamic damage system.
Oh, definitely. That was a huge deal back then.
Yeah, this wasn't just visual flair, it was a massive technical undertaking for 2008. Most games at the time used, preset damage models, right?
Yeah, canned animations, basically. A few predetermined dents or crumple points.
But Paradise calculated real-time compression and deformation upon impact based on actual physics, which meant every crash looked unique and felt truly visceral. Cars would realistically bend, twist, shed parts in spectacular ways.
And crashes result in one of two distinct states, remember? There was the drive-away.
Right, where you could keep going.
Yeah, your car retained its four wheels, chassis intact, you could just keep driving, maybe a bit battered. Or the much more dramatic wrecked state.
Noble.
Totally. You'd lose wheels, suffer engine damage, maybe land on your side or roof. Completely finished, requiring a quick reset. It made every impact feel incredibly weighty and consequential. It amplified that anarchic celebration of destruction we talked about.
So here's where the stakes really get raised then.
Sure.
This unique blend, raw speed, aggressive interaction, spectacular physics-driven destruction that was absolutely crucial to Burnout Paradise's identity. This was the DNA of Burnout Fast.
The core essence.
The fundamental question then becomes, could this core philosophy, this essence of exhilarating chaos, truly survive and thrive within the confines of a brand new, sprawling open world?
Right. Or would the very elements that made it so exhilarating in previous, more structured games become diluted? Or maybe even its undoing in a less controlled urban environment?
This is where the tension truly begins to build for players, I think. Wondering if their beloved Burnout had found a new, grander stage, or if it had simply lost its way in the transition.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because on one hand, Criterion was trying to deliver this open-road utopia, this absolute playground for destruction.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, that very chaos, when it's untamed, could potentially become, well, unfair and frustrating for players.
Right. Let's first look at the promise, though, the utopia that drew so many people in. Because for many players, Paradise City absolutely delivered on that promise. It offered a truly unique open-world experience that really stood apart at the time.
It did. And Justin Tal of Traxi makes this interesting point. He argues that Paradise City is arguably one of the smallest open-world sandboxes in modern gaming.
Really? Smaller? That's surprising.
Yeah, but that smaller size, surprisingly, allowed for what he calls unparalleled curation.
Curation. What does that mean in this context?
It means the developers had careful, almost artistic directorial control over the player's experience. Every single road, every corner, every ramp, every shortcut. It felt like it was meticulously designed to be riveting and memorable.
So it wasn't about sheer, overwhelming size like some open-world games we see now.
Exactly. It was about the quality and the intentionality of every interaction within that space. Purposeful design.
And a key aspect that really stands out is how they managed to keep that signature Burnout feeling even within this open-world structure.
Yeah, how did they do that?
Well, the roads in Paradise City, despite being part of this larger interconnected environment, often felt like the ribbon racing of previous Burnout games. They were laid out in such a way that they kind of funneled you, maybe subtly, into these exhilarating routes. And the interactive elements, things like smashable objects, billboards to jump through, strategically placed ramps, they were cannily placed to actively encourage instinctive, reckless driving.
So it led to inevitable, beautiful disaster.
Pretty much. It wasn't just a possibility, it was an integrated, rewarding part of the experience. You weren't just driving through the city, you were driving with it, interacting with its environment in this constantly destructive dance.
And they were incredibly clever with how they conveyed the sheer sensation of speed, too.
Oh, yeah. Who?
The game used astute environmental design things, like low-hanging trees that would blur past your window, close-set streetlights, narrow tunnels, even protruding architecture on buildings, to place geometry much closer to the player's line of sight.
Ah, visual tricks.
Exactly. This significantly increased the sensation of speed, making you feel like you were tearing through the city at truly ludicrous velocities, way faster than the speedometer might have actually indicated.
A masterclass in visual trickery for immersion, delivering that signature Burnout Fast feeling without necessarily having to break, the game's physics engine.
Totally. And the online innovation was also remarkably ahead of its time. The Easy Drive system, for instance.
Right.
Game changer.
Right, no lobbies.
It completely replaced traditional lobbies, which could often be clunky and slow. Instead, players could seamlessly invite friends mid-drive without ever having to break the action or leave the game world.
That was cool.
Yeah. It boasted 8-player online co-op freeburn challenges where you and your friends could work together on dynamic objectives, like achieving a certain combined jump distance over a specific ramp or performing simultaneous stunts.
It's fun, collaborative chaos.
Exactly. And beyond co-op, there were competitive modes like online stunt run, marked man, road rage, and who could forget the iconic mugshots camera feature?
Oh man, mugshots, that was brilliant.
Wasn't it? This would actually capture and display opponents' facial reactions, assuming they had the camera right after you took them down. It added this personal, often hilarious, and very memorable layer to online play. It really fostered a vibrant, interactive social platform, just like Ward envisioned.
What I really appreciate about the design, too, is how seamlessly all the content was integrated.
Yeah.
Paradise City was absolutely packed. 400 smash gates, 120 billboards, 50 super jumps, 120 events, 75 cars, 500 online challenges. Just tons of stuff.
A lot to do.
A lot. But here's the crucial part. These collectibles weren't just separate fetch quests that pulled you out of the core gameplay loop like in some other open-world games.
Right, no checklist feeling.
Exactly. Speeding through walls, crashing cars, making spectacular jumps were the collectible actions. It tied everything together, making exploration feel inherently rewarding and part of the visceral experience rather than some kind of chore.
And this commitment to flow and freedom was just evident everywhere, wasn't it? The game deliberately lacked load screens.
Famously.
Famously hated load screens, yes. Have minimal menus that seamlessly integrated into the driving experience, and again, famously, there was no fast travel option.
You had to drive everywhere.
You had to drive everywhere. This meant players fluidly transitioned between main events, side activities, and free roaming, creating this continuous, uninterrupted experience. The city itself was meticulously crafted as a utopia for drivers, a playground designed for unadulterated speed and destruction, not for ordinary citizens or mundane tasks.
Reinforcing that philosophy of pure, unadulterated driving pleasure.
Absolutely. And this design philosophy, prioritizing integrated destruction and continuous play, earned widespread critical praise for its bold vision and execution.
But, and there's always a but, isn't there? Was this utopia flawless, or did this unique approach, for all its acclaim, inadvertently alienate some longtime fans who expected a different kind of burnout?
That's where the stakes truly intensify, I think, as we explore the flip side of this paradise.
You're absolutely right, because despite all that praise and innovative design, Paradise City wasn't without its detractors. And this is where that tension between the developer vision and the player experience really starts to show itself. For a game that's all about high speed and fluid action, there was this glaring precision paradox that many players found incredibly frustrating.
The precision paradox. Tell me more.
The game often demands precision control, but does not give you precision controls. That's a direct quote from Analysis. Imagine tearing through a narrow street at 200 miles an hour, right?
Okay.
And a tiny, almost imperceptible twitch of the analog stick sends you careening into an oncoming bus. Small twitches at high speed could lead to unavoidable crashes, and losing even a few seconds in a race often meant falling 2-3 places.
Ouch.
Which is incredibly frustrating when you feel like the controls just betrayed you, not your skill.
Yeah, that feeling of unfairness. And what's particularly fascinating here is how the very density and chaos, which were celebrated as these bold design choices by some,
The curated chaos.
could also become a source of profound frustration for others. The thickly populated Paradise City could sometimes blur into what one source called a conga line of failure.
Huh. A conga line of failure. I like that.
It paints a picture, doesn't it? Players found it difficult to distinguish civilian cars, which caused a wreck if you hit them from rival foes who were your targets for takedowns.
Ah, okay, that's a problem.
Yeah. Combine that with unpredictable oncoming traffic that seemed to just swerve directly into your path sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
and numerous obstacles around blind corners. It frequently led to what many described as unfair gameplay.
And didn't the visual filter for critical health make things worse?
It actually did. That filter, which drained contrast from the screen, making it look kind of grayed out, actually made it harder to distinguish environmental elements in traffic, exacerbating the issue. It turned potentially exciting, close-call moments into pure aggravation for some.
And speaking of frustrations, let's talk about the launch day quality of life issues, because they were a major sticking point, and honestly, some are hard to imagine in a modern game.
Oh yeah, the big one.
Most controversially, the initial 1.0 release notably lacked a restart event button. Just think about that for a second.
It's wild.
Imagine failing a race by a hair's breadth, maybe due to one of those unfair crashes, and being forced to drive all the way back to the starting line just to try again.
No quick retry, just drive.
It's wild to think about now, and it generated immense player backlash. Criterion initially stated that such a retry option was impossible without introducing load screens, which they famously hate with a passion, prioritizing flow above all else.
Right, that no load screens mantra.
But responding to overwhelming player feedback, it was eventually added later through an update, which shows how much player feedback can shift even firmly held developer philosophies sometimes.
Definitely. But at launch, big problem. And there were also no in-game waypoints, right? No map guidelines or even arrows to direct players to race objectives.
Yeah, you had to constantly glance at the minimap, which at those speeds meant risking a crash. It further slowed down the supposed flow they were aiming for.
Which brings us squarely to the open world backlash among a significant segment of the longtime fan base.
Right, the traditionalists.
While many praised the new direction, some traditional Burnout fans felt it genuinely detracted from the core experience they loved. Comments on forums like Reddit lamented shoehorning in open-world gameplay to a game that doesn't need it. They argued that the linear-focused tracks of previous games lent themselves better to the pure racing and crashing. Some called the open world a drag, when you were just trying to get to the next event, feeling that the open world adds literally nothing to the core appeal of Burnout for them.
It clearly highlights that deep division in player expectations. Some sought freedom, others craved that focused intensity.
Absolutely. And we can't forget DJ Atomica, the in-game guide and radio host.
No boy. DJ Atomica.
While he was intended to add personality and deliver information, mission briefings, he proved to be incredibly polarizing.
Understatement.
Eurogamer famously described him as instantly dislikable. Traction noted him as a polarizing feature. His constant chatter, sometimes repetitive lines, occasionally condescending tone. It just rubbed many players the wrong way.
Yeah, for some, he added to the game's charm, maybe that punk rock vibe. For others, he was just an unwelcome intrusion into their high-speed zen, probably muted pretty quickly.
Exactly. It just goes to show that even small, seemingly innocuous design choices, like an in-game narrator, can significantly impact player reception and become a real point of contention.
So, if we connect this back to the bigger picture, it raises that important question again. How could a game that was so critically acclaimed, that revolutionized its genre in many ways, also harbor such fundamental frustrations for players, especially at launch?
Yeah, this tension between a developer's bold, innovative vision and the practical, sometimes really frustrating player experience is just a central theme in Burnout Paradise's legacy. It's not just about what was intended by the designers, but how those initial design choices impacted gameplay flow and player enjoyment day to day.
And that ultimately shaped a very divided reception that, as we'll see, persists even today.
That tension certainly carried through the game's entire life cycle, didn't it? Because Burnout Paradise didn't just stay static after launch. Oh no. It underwent this massive transformation through a continuous stream of free updates and premium DLC.
Right, turning it into what some might affectionately call a patchwork paradise, a game that was constantly evolving, constantly changing. Let's start with the free updates, because they were absolutely crucial in addressing many of those early criticisms we just talked about, like the lack of that restart button.
Definitely. First came Bogart in April 2008. That was a fairly standard patch, fixed several glitches, bugs, the usual post-launch cleanup.
Okay.
Then Cagney arrived in July-August 2008, and that brought significant new content. 3 new Freeburn multiplayer modes, Online Stunt Run, Marked Man, and Road Rage, bringing back some classic modes online.
Adding more structure to the online.
Exactly. Plus, 70 new online challenges, the highly requested custom soundtracks feature. And crucially, Cagney also retrospectively added 1080i support for the PS3, and eventually, that much-demanded restart event option. The one Criterion had initially said was impossible due to their no-load screen philosophy.
That alone shows how responsive they were eventually to that overwhelming player feedback, even if it meant reevaluating their core design principles.
Absolutely. And the evolution continued rapidly with the Davis, or Bikes pack, in September 2008. This wasn't just a minor tweak, this added motorcycles.
Bikes, that was huge.
It fundamentally altered how players could traverse Paradise City. Bikes came with their own unique physics, handling, offered a fresh challenge, a different feel for speed entirely.
Yeah, totally different vibe.
This update also introduced a dynamic weather system, rain, atmospheric effects, and day-night cycles, which fundamentally changed the city's atmosphere and how you experienced it. Imagine speeding through a dark, rain-slicked Paradise City on a motorcycle.
Very cool.
It also brought 70 bike-only challenges and special midnight rides, custom events tailored just for the two-wheeled experience.
And there were more updates later too, right? Adjusting difficulty.
Yeah, further updates in February 2009 added an in-game browser and store, and significantly tweaked vehicle stats and event difficulty to be, quote, more toward beginners and casual players.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting.
It is, isn't it? It indicates a conscious effort to broaden the game's appeal beyond maybe the hardcore Burnout fans. But perhaps. Perhaps at the cost of some of its initial challenge and raw intensity. That's part of the debate.
Right, and beyond the free stuff, there was a ton of premium downloadable content, the paid DLC, that really expanded the game's scope and variety.
Oh yeah, they went big on DLC.
The Burnout Party Pack in February 2009 introduced hot seat local multiplayer, focusing on pass-the-controller challenges for up to 8 players, turning your living room into a competitive arena, fun couch co-op stuff.
Nice.
Then came the legendary Cars Pack, featuring 4 iconic film and TV-inspired vehicles. We're talking the Janssen P1288 Special, clearly the DeLorean from Back to the Future,
Obvious nod, yeah.
and the Hunter Manhattan Spirit, which was directly inspired by the Ecto-1 from Ghostbusters. These weren't just new models, they came with unique visual effects characteristics. They became fan favorites, tapping into that pop culture nostalgia.
Criterion certainly didn't stop there, though. March 2009 saw the release of Toy Cars, a collection of miniaturized vehicles with this distinct, charming toy car aesthetic and physics. Added a playful, almost whimsical layer to the destruction.
Little toy cars smashing up.
Yeah.
Though.
Then there were the boost specials, which included the Carson Extreme Hot Rod, described as the fastest car in the game with a unique locked boost that only stopped when the car did. Required immense skill to manage.
Wow.
And the Montgomery Hawker Mech was another, allowing players to switch between boost types on the fly, offering some tactical depth.
And Cops and Robber.
Ah yes, April 2009, the Cops and Robbers pack introduced a whole new multiplayer team mode where cops and robbers competed for gold bars across Paradise City. And notably, it gave a police livery to every Paradise car. Well, except the carbon and premium DLC vehicles, radically changing the look and feel of your garage. Suddenly, everyone could be the police.
But perhaps the most significant premium DLC, the real game changer, was Big Surf Island, released in June 2009.
Oh yeah, Big Surf Island was massive.
It really was. A whole new island expansion focused squarely on stunt driving. Packed with ramps, jumps, incredible opportunities for aerial maneuvers. It came with new vehicles designed for stunts, dozens of new events, more billboards to smash, and truly jaw-dropping mega jumps.
And didn't completing everything there unlock something special?
It did. Completing all 500 free burn challenges on the island awarded a special Janssen P12 Diamond car, a true test of dedication and skill. It really gave players a whole new playground to explore, almost like a game within a game.
So this rapid and expensive post-launch support, it fundamentally changed the game from its initial, maybe somewhat bare-bones release.
Completely different beast by the end.
The curiosity point here, and where the stakes get high, is whether these additions, both free and paid, truly enhanced Burnout Paradise. Did they solidify its vision into something unequivocally better? Or did they inadvertently dilute its initial core identity, leading to surprising regressions for some players who preferred that raw, unburdened 1.0 experience?
That's the question, isn't it? And it leads directly into the core debate that has divided fans for years, right up to the remaster. Hashtag tag 3.2, the remastered versus original debate, a deep divide. This brings us right to the heart of it, this deep divide among fans about what constitutes the best version of Burnout Paradise. Fast forward to 2018, and we get Burnout Paradise Remastered, or BPR, which, on paper at least, promised the complete, definitive experience.
Yeah, the core promise of BPR was indeed comprehensive. It aimed to deliver all downloadable content. Every car, every mode, every expansion like Big Surf Island.
All in one package.
all in one package. Though interestingly, not the Time Savers pack, which originally unlocked all vehicles without needing progression. They kept that progression aspect intact for purists, which was probably a good call.
Probably.
It offered full support for higher resolution displays, up to glorious 4K, with a smooth 60 frames per second across all platforms, which was a big visual upgrade.
Definitely smoother.
It also featured refreshed online servers to ensure a robust multiplayer experience and replace the real-life in-game advertisements from the original with fictional ones. A subtle change, but noticeable if you play the original a lot.
Right, so on the surface, it sounded like the ultimate package. A celebration of a beloved game, everything included, looking better than ever.
Exactly. And critically, while Burnout Paradise Remastered still received similarly positive reviews to the original from critics, its Metacritic scores were actually slightly less.
Oh, interesting. How much less?
For example, 82 out of 100 for the PS4 version compared to 87, 88 out of 100 for the original PS3, Xbox 360 release.
Huh. That slight dip is intriguing, isn't it? It hints at maybe an underlying debate, a sense that while technically improved and more complete, something subtle might have been lost in translation for some players.
Precisely. And the real spark for this deep dive, honestly, comes from a controversial Reddit post. Title: Burnout Paradise original version is so much better than the remastered version.
Okay, bold claim.
Bold claim. And it truly ignited a heated discussion within the community. The user, who had somehow gotten hold of and experienced the day one release version 1.0 on an old PS3 after playing the Ultimate Box and remastered versions for years.
Wow, I'm back in time.
Yeah. They found it like a different game almost. They weren't just being nostalgic either. They articulated very specific, concrete, perceived downgrades in the later versions, including the remaster.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, because these weren't just minor quibbles, were they? They sound like fundamental aspects of the game's feel.
Exactly. The Reddit user highlighted several key areas where they felt the original 1.0 was superior. First, the interface. They claimed the 1.0 interface was completely different but far more fitting, maybe more streamlined or intuitive to the game's core loop than the updated menus.
Okay, UI preferences. Fair enough.
Then, maybe more significantly, the crash physics and damage. 1.0, they argued, had far more exaggerated crash physics.
Yeah.
Cars rolled more, went higher into the air, creating a more intense wreck. Along with better car damage, that was described as truly brutal.
Brutal.
Yeah, a visceral impact that seemed nerfed in later versions, becoming somewhat tamer, less spectacular perhaps.
And this next point really raises the stakes for the core Burnout experience itself, doesn't it? Car speeds.
Yes, the Reddit user claimed higher car top speeds in 1.0. They vividly described how even the starter car felt faster, and that upon getting the second car, the Hunter Mesquite, they distinctly remember panicking that the game got this fast already.
Panicking. That says something.
Doesn't it? They strongly suggested that overall car speeds seemed nerfed in later versions, and they questioned why Criterion would downgrade the speed in a game called Burnout, which is, all about fast speeds and hard crashes.
That's a fundamental question. If true, that's a significant alteration to the game's whole identity.
Absolutely. And the AI difficulty was another major point of contention. The 1.0 AI was perceived as more difficult and challenging.
How so?
This user recalled struggling for 20-30 mins, just trying to take down the cars to unlock them after winning events, saying it was so much easier in the remastered version. Marked Man AI was described as more aggressive, Road Rage AI slightly tougher, and Race AI quicker. It provided this consistent, intense challenge that later versions seemed to tone down, possibly for that wider audience.
And visual.
Lastly, specific visual elements. 1.0 apparently featured cooler Burnout art logo billboards, often in stark white instead of the standard red ones seen later. And it had unique black and white filter visual cues for critical health, which were absent in subsequent updates. This user was genuinely sad, feeling they'd been playing the wrong Burnout Paradise this whole time, having missed out on what they considered the superior original raw vision.
Wow, that's a strong feeling. But the community wasn't entirely convinced, right? There were counterpoints.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The community response wasn't in full agreement at all, offering important counterpoints and nuance that really contextualized that 1.0 experience. Many users were understandably confused how an unpatched Day 1 game notoriously buggy feature light could possibly be considered better.
Yeah, that lack of restart.
Yeah, exactly. They quickly noted that 1.0 was missing a ton of QOL improvements, those small but crucial quality of life features that just make a game easier and more pleasant to play day to day. Most notably, as we discussed, the absence of the restart event option, which was a huge source of frustration at launch.
Can't overstate that one.
Plus, it also lacked motorcycles, the day-night cycles, all the associated content like bikes and bike-only challenges that came later. And the progression issue with DLC cars in Remastered, where all cars are available from the start, was also considered optional by many.
How so?
Well, players could simply choose not to use those powerful cars early on if they wanted a more structured progression. It was on the player if they want to use those cars, as one user put it.
So self-imposed challenge.
Right. This indicates that while the raw 1.0 experience might have had its unique appeal, maybe that brutality, that speed, it came with significant practical drawbacks that were later addressed, albeit potentially at the cost of some of that original raw intensity.
Exactly. Some users even agreed with the general sentiment, saying things like, it's pretty common that the original game is superior to a remaster, though unpatched original is rare. This particular debate really raises a critical question for all of us, I think. In the pursuit of polish, accessibility, comprehensiveness, by packaging all the DLC, updating the visuals, adding QL features, did Criterion inadvertently strip away some of the raw, challenging, and intense elements that defined Burnout Paradise's original charm?
What truly constitutes a better version of a game, especially when you're weighing modern conveniences against the raw, maybe slightly broken, but unadulterated spirit of its first iteration.
And whose vision, the initial developers, the evolving developers over time, or the player's own perception, ultimately matters most in this ongoing evolution?
It creates a truly meaningful conversation, doesn't it, about what we value in gaming and how we perceive the very concept of improvement. It's not always linear.
That's a profound question, absolutely. And one that resonates deeply when we look at the choices developers make, sometimes choices forced upon them. And it leads us perfectly into looking at some of the unseen influences that shaped Burnout Paradise and why its legacy continues to resonate so strongly, particularly when it comes to the very business of destruction and cars. Here's a core insight that, honestly, most players might not even consider day to day. The absence of licensed real-world cars in Burnout Paradise wasn't just a stylistic choice or a budget decision. It offered Criterion Games an unprecedented freedom.
Freedom to do what, specifically?
Freedom to depict severe damage to the vehicles involved. This, as we've established, was a core, non-negotiable part of that Burnout Fast identity, the very essence of its celebrated destruction.
Right, they could literally smash cars to bits, bend metal, send debris flying without a second thought, because they weren't beholden to a real-world car brand saying, don't scratch the paint.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this creative freedom is just a stark contrast to the industry constraints that most other racing games face. Many games, with their, what one source called a borderline fetishistic attachment to real car brands, enter into these strict licensing agreements with manufacturers like Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, you name it. These companies, understandably, have a powerful brand image to protect.
Of course.
And they typically insist that their products, even in video games, remain in a reasonably presentable condition, which directly impacts how much damage a virtual car can sustain. It forces developers to pull their punches, make crashes less dramatic or realistic than they otherwise could be.
So the desire for hyperrealism in the car models often leads to a compromise on the crash physics realism. It's a trade-off.
It seems like it, and you see this contrast highlighted so starkly with Need for Speed, Most Wanted, 2012.
Ah, okay. Why that game specifically?
Interestingly, that game was also developed by Criterion Games, the same studio behind Burnout Paradise.
Oh, wow, okay.
But Most Wanted featured licensed cars. And what did we get as a result? According to analysis, radically sanitized crashes that simply don't have the punch and personality of Paradise's spectacular wrecks.
Sanitized crashes. So less satisfying.
Apparently. Instead of cars crumpling into twisted metal, they often just suffered superficial dents or had parts pop off cleanly. It's described as an honest-to-God example of how external marketing and branding decisions directly influence, and in this case, potentially limit, core gameplay mechanics and visual spectacle. You can feel the difference in the impact or lack thereof.
Wow. That raises an important, truly meaningful conversation about the state of racing games today, doesn't it? Are developers consistently forced to compromise core gameplay mechanics like the visceral destruction that defines a series like Burnout, just for the sake of getting those real-world licenses and the lucrative branding deals that come with them?
It seems plausible.
And if so, what does this mean for the future of truly destructive racing games? It implies that the raw, aggressive, visually impactful crashing might be an increasingly rare feature if car manufacturers continue to exert such stringent control over their digital representations.
So the market forces, the power dynamics between the brand and the studio, are literally shaping the very physics and player experience of the game.
Potentially making Burnout Paradise's unrestrained destruction a kind of last-of-its-kind situation, or at least a very difficult act to follow for anyone wanting licensed cars. Hashtag 4.2, a peak unsurpassed. The lasting impact of Paradise.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it, that market forces could dictate the very feel of a game like that. But despite these industry pressures and even the internal debates we've discussed about its evolution, Burnout Paradise undeniably achieved overwhelming critical acclaim at the time.
Oh, massively. It garnered overwhelmingly positive reviews, won numerous awards in 2008, including Best Racing Driving Game from Spike TV, GameSpot, Game Trailers, Racing Game of the Year from the prestigious Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences.
Pretty much swept the racing category.
Yeah. And it's still considered by some today to be one of the greatest video games ever made. That's a testament to its groundbreaking design and execution. It's hard to argue with that level of initial praise.
Definitely. And what's truly fascinating and really speaks to the depth of its impact is that Burnout Paradise's unique blend of intensity, exploration, and that need for fast reaction times. It even made it the subject of academic papers.
Really? Academic papers on Burnout?
Yeah. Researchers have explored fields like gamer cardiology, examining how the game impacts heart rate and physiological responses. Phenomenological correspondence, studying the subjective experience of immersion and flow within the game. And even computer game pedagogy, investigating its potential for teaching things like spatial reasoning or quick decision-making.
So it wasn't just seen as a fun game, it was viewed as this phenomenon that warranted serious study, highlighting its depth, psychological impact, innovative design beyond simple entertainment.
Exactly. But here's where it gets really interesting, though, and maybe raises the stakes for the entire racing genre moving forward. Traction, that respected automotive gaming publication we mentioned, explicitly asks this provocative question: why hasn't it been bettered in the 15 years since its release? Just think about that for a moment.
15 years is a long time in gaming.
It is. Modern open-world racers, despite all the technological advancements, the larger budgets, the more powerful hardware, they often fall short, according to some analyses, on Paradise's specific level of curation, its groundbreaking crash damage, and that visceral feel that made it so special.
It's almost an indictment of the genre's progression since then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Suggesting that while games have evolved in many ways, maybe they haven't quite captured that specific Burnout Paradise magic again.
It leads us to what you could call the almost there paradox. Burnout Paradise felt at the time like almost there for the perfect open world racer.
Right, like it was pointing the way forward.
The expectation, especially maybe from Criterion themselves, was that it would be a stepping stone, a foundational template upon which future games would inevitably build and surpass.
But that didn't really happen, did it?
Not quite in the way people expected. Rather than being a beginning, a mere point of departure, it remarkably proved to be a peak in its own right. What's even more striking is that every successive release in the open-world racing genre since Paradise has, for many players, brought some level of disappointment in comparison.
Wow, so it's like the industry reached this high point with Paradise, and then for various reasons, maybe technical, creative, market-driven, like the licensing issue, couldn't quite replicate or improve upon that specific blend of elements that made it so compelling for so many people.
So this leads to a truly meaningful conversation for you, the listener, and maybe for the industry as a whole. What fundamental elements of Burnout Paradise's design, whether it's that raw 1.0 experience with its challenging AI and brutal crashes, or the polished Ultimate box with all its added content, or something else entirely, have proven so incredibly difficult to replicate or surpass in the 15 years since?
Does this suggest maybe a lost art in game development? Perhaps a unique blend of factors that, once achieved, just can't be easily recaptured?
Or does it point to an industry that has perhaps prioritized other elements like hyper-realistic graphics, extensive licensed car lists, or even monetization strategies over the pure, unadulterated fun, the fluid design, and the spectacular destructive chaos that define Paradise City?
It really makes you wonder what could have been, doesn't it? And maybe what we might have missed out on in the years since. Hashtag outro.
Well, we've certainly revved through the streets of Paradise City today, haven't we? We've explored the audacious design choices that made Burnout Paradise such a landmark title, from its huge open-world gamble to its anarchic celebrations of crashes, and yeah, even the curious case of DJ Atomica.
He definitely left an impression.
He did, and we've navigated this surprising and intense debate around its various iterations, seeing how a game can be both a critical darling and simultaneously a source of deep division among its most dedicated fans, especially when you compare that raw original vision to its more polished, complete, and even remastered forms.
From its groundbreaking open-world philosophy and its celebrated speed and crash dynamic, to that fascinating interplay between pure gameplay vision and real-world licensing decisions. Burnout Paradise continues to provoke discussion. It really set a high, maybe even unattainable, benchmark for open-world racing games. Its legacy is just rich with both innovation and controversy, a testament to its enduring impact on players and developers alike.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, it leaves us with a truly provocative thought, I think. In an era where seemingly every beloved game is destined for a remaster or a remake, Burnout Paradise challenges us to ask, are we always genuinely improving things? Or sometimes in our pursuit of polish, new features, accessibility, comprehensiveness, do we inadvertently lose some of the raw, unadulterated spirit? That challenging intensity that made a game a paradise to begin with for some people.
What essential chaos, perhaps, are we truly willing to trade for refinement? And what fundamentally constitutes a better version of a game anyway? It's subjective, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It leaves you to wonder if the ultimate paradise, for some at least, was always closer to the beginning, perhaps before the journey of evolution began, before we started thinking we needed to fix what wasn't, for some, truly broken in the first place. Something to think about.